It's about, I don't want to stay stuck. I have a friend that said this very wise thing to me one day, and it applies to so many different things. It says, standing still, it's actually going backwards. Standing still, it's actually going backwards because everything else is moving forward. When this is happening, acknowledge it, but then realize that, hey, no one else but you can do something about it.
Welcome to the She's So Sweet podcast, where we interview accomplished women who have worked their way to the C-suite. I'm your host, Kristi Faltorusso, Chief Customer Officer and award-winning customer success executive. I'm so excited to introduce today's guest. I've got Dora Boussias, who's the award-winning data and AI executive and founder. Now, I got to give a little context here for our listeners, but I actually was attending an event last June, and I had the privilege of sitting in on one of Dora's sessions and was talking about AI. Now, again, this is a year ago. We're recording this in May, so a year ago. Now, we could all reflect back into the state of that, what that looked like so early on, how people were thinking about it, and I just sat there in awe of the clarity in which she had such a vision and understanding about AI in the space. So I did a full recap of her session on LinkedIn, and here we are a year later, finally, after being friends and connecting on social media, and I finally get to have Dora on the show and get to hear your story. So Dora, I'm so excited to have you here today. Thank you so much.
Oh, Kristi, I am so excited to be here myself. I can't believe it's been a year. And thank you so much. Like, who knew, right? That you would be there in the audience of a talk that I gave. And then you did the whole recap of it, which I'm very appreciative of. And excited to be here and have this conversation with you for your listeners.
Absolutely. And you know what the cool thing is since we saw each other last, your career has evolved quite a bit. So I think we've got a good story to talk about today. So before we get in, let's start by telling listeners a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you're doing, and let's give them some foundation on Dora.
Okay, sure. So you already said it. Obviously, I have a big background in data and AI. I've spent about 30 years in corporate, always in IT, but always business-minded. So I drove business innovation through data and tech for large enterprises. I worked across functions, healthcare, finance, insurance for companies like GE and Stryker and Prudential and so forth. But in doing so, what I've always been driven is about driving impact. So even though I was always technical and hands-on, I always wanted to drive impact, so connecting back to business value. And at the same time, something I guess about me is that I would always be very forward thinking. And that's why you heard me talk about AI, like you said, a year ago, when not that AI was new, but about some things that, we're still trying to unpack and figure out more about those this year. Another thing about me, I love helping people. So even as I was driving my corporate roles all these years, I wanted to share the lessons. I wanted to share what I was learning, usually the hard way, bring it back. I've been a coach, a mentor for women in tech. I've been speaking probably about 10 years right now. I've done many podcasts, webinars, just to share what I know, also to influence the industry for some things. And it's all about data and AI, business transformation, but also helping people with their careers and growing and succeeding. So like you said, lots have changed over the last year. So when we met, it was literally the first couple of days after I had left my last employer. So it's been about 11 months now since I went into entrepreneurship. And my mission really is just to help both organizations and individuals with where they want to go, especially when it comes to strategic initiatives with data and AI, and again, with their career and leadership. And I can tell you more about it because I feel like I keep on going speaking here.
No, this is great. Listen, you're giving us a wonderful foundation into things, and we're going to get to a lot more of this as we advance in the episode today. But let's start from the beginning, because Dora, obviously, there's no way you could have envisioned having a career in like data and AI, because when we were little, that wasn't a thing. So I want you to rewind for a minute and think back as far as you can remember. But when you were little, what did you think you were going to be when you grew up, or what did you want to be?
The funny thing, what I wanted to be is what I thought, what other people were telling me that I wanted to be. First of all, you're absolutely right. No clue. I was going to end up in data, in tech, doing AI. I was born and raised in Greece, and I grew up in the country on a farm cultivating tobacco. This was hard physical labor. My summers especially were long days from literally 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to midnight. And when people were asking me, when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, people were asking me, what would you be? I was saying a judge, a prosecutor, because that's what others were telling me. When you grow up, you'll be a prosecutor. No idea where I was going to end up. But it's interesting how it all unfolded, Kristi. And I actually made a decision to go into tech when I was in high school. And it was a very practical and pragmatic decision. I used to love to read and write and I thought and teach and help others. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go to college and study, be a teacher of some sort. And then I thought to myself, when I had to make the decision which way to go for my last year in high school, I thought to myself, there's about 40,000 people right now that are teachers for Greek literature, because I was born and raised there, waiting to be hired. There wasn't much private schools back then. Mm-hmm. And I had just taken basic programming language, which I liked. And I said, hey, this computer programming language, this computer thing that's starting to happen, this was back in the 80s now, I think that's the job of the future. And I want to make sure that whatever I do, I don't want to feel that I'm looking for a job that I cannot find, that the opportunities are available. So that's how I made the decision. I was very fortunate because it worked out. I love what I've been doing all these years. It draws on my critical thinking, analytical skills, just really looking at complex problems and deconstructing them and, driving solutions that matter. And yeah, has nothing to do with tobacco, has nothing to do with being a lawyer. But here we are. And I'm in data and tech and AI these days. For a long time.
Well, I love that. It sounds like you made some pretty good, very forward-thinking decisions early on.
Yeah.
So how did we now I want you let's take us on this journey, okay. Because, going into school, obviously you had more direction than I think a lot of our guests start in something and then it's a complete pivot and we got to connect the dots to figure out how do we get from A to Z. Mm-hmm. Now yours seems a little bit more linear, but we know one thing for sure. Nobody's career is linear. Nothing is as straightforward as it seems. So take us through the journey of kind of exiting school, you have this career. How did you kind of get into your first jobs?
Yeah, it's actually not as linear as it sounds because yes, I spent 30 years in IT, but like I said, just the fact that I've worked across different functions, like when I went into my last employer, Stryker, this is medical technology. I came out of GE Capital Treasury. So I was speaking about derivatives and financial instruments. And here I am right now speaking about tangible devices that go into people's bodies. And how it started actually, well, I came here when I was 17 and I had very limited English. Honestly, the first few months, I think I said nothing other than hello, goodbye, thank you. I don't even know, Kristi, how I got through the first year because everything I would hear my professor say, I would translate it 100% in Greek in my head and my notes, because I like to take notes, were 100% in Greek. Over the years that switched to being now English, unless there's that one word in Greek that just conveys the message, and I'm going to still write that. But I got into this business because in finishing my bachelor's, I needed to do an internship. That internship turned into a full-time job offer. And that's how I started. But I started as a COBOL mainframe programmer. Who knew? Some people don't even know what a mainframe is or what COBOL is these days. Right? Mainframe, think of it as a supercomputer that was taking a whole room. It had less power than our phones have these days. But you said it, forward-thinking visionary. I would always say, hey, what's new out there? I would teach it myself, staying late at night, teach the new skills. And it's not that I would just bring it in. I would bring it into the organization if it made sense, connecting it back to business value. How am I helping my organization thrive as a business? How am I helping the customer, the patient, whatever the business I was in? But in doing that, I went from programming, with programming languages to data. Data has always been there, program manager, project management, and then enterprise architecture at the enterprise level, really driving global enterprise level transformations, typically in like some kind of a lead role, because that comes easy to me. And for the past many years now, something that I've done was to, again, forward thinking, put together the case, pitch it to my C-suite, things that people weren't really talking about, get the buy-in, and then really just build the function from the ground up. And what that meant is not only being good on the technical and data side of things, the domain, but what that taught me is really to get better at just driving transformation. That's why I talk about business transformation a lot as well, because it was literally standing up functions, creating roles. And when I say standing up functions, I mean names functions that never existed before. So from the vision to the mission to the roadmap to hiring the team to implementing relevant technologies to integrating with the rest of the operations to never mind getting the buy-in from the executives, but then how do you drive that transformation throughout the layers of the organization, people from all different regions in the world in different divisions, and that it's a whole thing on itself, right? But it kind of says about the way I work too. I'm not afraid to take on a challenge because I would be too bored doing the same old thing otherwise anyway. And I find, I guess, fulfillment, and I like it when I see a problem and I'm bringing solutions that matter, but then taking people to come along with me as well. Because as a leader, one thing that I would say is that nobody can do this alone. And I brought this up at a webinar I was doing yesterday. We were talking about leadership, and I said, leadership is a team sport because you can't call yourself a leader unless you have a team of people. Who are you leading, right? But also leadership is a team sport for needed a support network around you to get into leadership positions easier, not the hard way. And that's another topic. Maybe we'll talk about it today.
All right. Well, listen, I got to dig in here because, you did a lot of things, and I can't imagine that any of these, especially as you were kind of rethinking things and learning new things and applying them, that any of that was easy. But when you reflect back, like, what are some of the big pivotal moments or the big decisions that you feel like throughout your career really contributed to your success?
Definitely lots of big lessons. What contributed to my success? Definitely resilience, grit, observing, doing things. But I'll tell you also some pivotal moments in my career that have really fueled a lot of what I'm doing right now. No matter what I did, it seems like I've done a lot of different things, but at the core of it is, how do I drive impact? How do I work on meaningful things? How do I bring other people along? How do I solve problems? How do I share and help others? So like I said earlier, my mission right now, a big part of it is to help others with their careers or their strategic initiatives, right? And I built a program that I called Soar with Confidence, which is a career and leadership program. A few pivotal moments in my career and what helped me really also move up are these. I'll give you an example from early on. This is very early on in the 90s, only a few years into my career, and I asked for a raise because I realized, hey, I'm being underpaid here. And as a matter of fact, I had gotten out of the COBOL, which was very legacy, programming, into all the latest. If I were to think about it today, it's as if at that time, being part of the rapid application development team, it's as if I was doing agentic AI development right now. It was the latest, right? And I asked for a raise because I realized, hey, I'm getting underpaid. And here are all these counterparts of mine, most of which were male, of course. It's a little lonely being a woman in STEM, in tech, especially the higher up you go. And my manager was all for it, but his manager said no. So I took up the courage to say, hey, I'd like to understand, here's all the data points, and I'd like to understand why. He said to me, let's go out in the backyard. And we sat down at the picnic table under this tree in the backyard of the headquarters of the business. And he says, okay, what do you want? And I said, okay, I understand you're hesitant about this. You don't want to do this, but here's all of the data. And I brought it up. Just help me understand why are you saying no to this? And his response, Kristi, was this. And this is a visual I haven't forgotten, I will never forget. He looked at me. Here I was in my mid-late 20s. This was a white male in his late 40s, perhaps, that said to me, listen to me. When you talk to me, I'm here. You're there. You better watch how you talk to me. And my realization at that moment was, this is not a person I respect. This is not someone I want to work for and help make them look better through my hard work. I was so fortunate that it was a good market, but I did something about it. And in the next 2 weeks, I interviewed. Thankfully, it was a good market. I had 4 interviews. I think I got 3 or 4 offers. I resigned. And the funny thing is, not funny, but what I got, the compensation package, was so much better than what I was asking. Everything, the base, the package, everything. So what that taught me is that, hey, it's in my hands to do something about it. And if this infringes on my values, you don't talk to people that way. I don't care I was 27 and you were 50, and I don't care you were a director at the time and I was just a, programmer, whatever my title was, right? It doesn't give you the right to do that. So that was a lesson, but I'll give you one more lesson because I think it will be helpful for people.
I mean, I gotta still wipe the shock off my face from that, because I gotta tell you, my parents never spoke to me like that. My husband would never speak to me like that. That is wild that somebody, granted, it's however long ago, and I do like to believe that times have changed, but I am having such a tough time hearing that somebody could actually say that to another person in a professional setting.
Yeah, and think about this. This was picnic table, backyard, and it was a response to the question, hey, here's all of my arguments.
Help me understand.
You
weren't even being disrespectful. You weren't making any demands. You weren't making anything.
No.
Help educate me, because I might accept your answer here.
Yeah.
How did we derive to that? Why isn't this an option or a possibility for me? Man, okay. All right, let's keep it going.
I do want to say, though, I do think things have gotten better. This was a long time ago. Unfortunately, they're not better, because I have a semi-similar example from later in my career. And you brought it up earlier, Kristi, as well. Sometimes people like to hold you back. Sometimes they're intimidated when they see people that know their stuff, that do good work. I've actually happened when I was more senior in my career, and that was a defining moment for me too. People to just really did not want to pull their weight, but they did not want to just get out of the way and let the rest of us do the work either. And I was leading that effort, and this person started saying things behind my back, which others told me about, that this is a waste of time, which was not. But this was that driving change, and everybody else was on board. But this person was counting down the days to retirement. So when he said to me, I'd like to talk to you about it, I thought he would apologize. Instead, what I got was an interrogation where he sat over me like this and said, how do you know so many things? And who taught you all of these things? And of course, I got up and left. I was more senior in my career. But I let him ask me the second question. I answered the first, and I was disappointed in myself. I was still learning. These are the hard lessons that I want to teach others for how to build up their confidence and get over whatever hang-ups, imposter syndrome, taking up space, advocating for yourself, really lessons, right? Because no one has the right to do that. Just to make themselves feel better, or because they don't want to pull their weight, or because they're just not in the right role, not mature enough, like that first example. This was not a person that should be in a leadership position, in my opinion.
I mean, I would challenge that there's probably a large percentage of leaders that should not be leaders. At least in my experience, I would say I'm pretty 50-50 for the quality and caliber of leaders that I have had. And I'll even respect the ones that maybe aren't the nicest when they're still met with respect and intelligence, right? Am I still learning and growing under you? But man, yeah, it's definitely been 50-50. The She's So Sweet podcast is brought to you by Client Success. Client Success is an all-in-one customer success platform to help post-sale implementation and success teams manage customers from new to renew. Through an industry-leading platform approach, Client Success gives businesses an in-depth view into customer health, product usage trends, along with churn and risk data, so that your team can not only retain customers, but help them grow as well. Whether it's managing customer onboarding workflows in shared portals, building custom health scores, tracking sentiment with NPS surveys, or doing more with less through AI and automations, Client Success gives customer success professionals a true one-stop platform to manage all aspects of the customer journey. To learn more about the industry's fastest to implement customer success platform, visit www.clientsuccess.com. That's Client Success. Simple, powerful customer success. All right, well, Dora, listen, one of the other big pivotal moments that I don't want us to not talk about was this shift that you made to go out on your own.
Yes.
Now, you've been doing this for 11 months now, so we're just about the 1 year mark for you coming up. What was that like, making that transition? And I have to think that that's another one of those courage-driven decisions, because you are taking a big risk and you're betting on yourself. Now, based on some of your other stories, I don't think that you were lacking courage or confidence, but tell me how we got to this place.
It is a big leap in some aspects, not in others, being an entrepreneur, because, so here, let me talk about this. Being in corporate, it was almost as if I was an intrapreneur, if you will, because again, it was driving a lot of change that was new and everything. So like you said, the courage and all of that is there. But you're living the safety. And I have a whole career. 30 years is not a small time. It's not a small time. 30 years where I'm doing great work, but I have a nice salary, nice compensation. And I left at a time when I was a senior leader in a big company and I was comfortable and everything. So yes, it was not a small decision. However, I'll be honest with you, there's two things that drove me to it. One of it has to do with the fact that I'm in my 50s right now. So here's what happens. This magical thing happens when you're in your 50s. I knew I would never stop working because for me, it gives me energy and I want to do things. I want to do good work and I want to help people. But after I turned 50, I thought to myself, well, I don't have to do that being in corporate always, right? And I also want to have a little bit more control over my career because I realized that life is really short. And I know we're always saying that. But it just so happened about that year, I came back from Greece. And a month after I got back, I heard two cousins that I was just talking a month earlier. And they both now were battling cancer. That kind of really drove it home for me that life is short, right? So that was the one selfish reason. I want more control over my schedule because I want to spend more quality time on my own terms with my loved ones. And the other one was, how do I, at this point in my life, I'm thinking about my legacy, what I bring back. How do I help more people? Again, how do I drive impact and help more people? So I wanted to focus 100% on something that all these years, it felt like I had a second job, really. But I was doing it, obviously, because I'm passionate about it. So that's how that came about. And when I turned 50, I'll tell you, I gave myself the goal that by 57, I'll be in the financial position to just leave the cushiony job and do this. At 51, I said, okay, maybe I can pull that in. At 53, I pulled the cord and I did that. And I'm, 11 months into it, but I'm loving what I'm able to do and the impact that I'm able to drive. It means a lot to me when I hear people tell me, hey, thank you. Like, this is changing how I think about these things. And it could be about different things, Kristi. It could be like I'm talking about data and AI, like I gave a keynote on leading with purpose in the year of AI last week. And I got so much great feedback from data leaders. They're saying, hey, that brings clarity and structure and everything. And then on the other hand, people that I'm coaching on career and leadership, they're saying, wow, thank you. I'm so glad I'm doing this and working with you. So to me, it's, how do I become a positive force to help others just rise as high as they can? That makes me happy.
I love that. I mean, honestly, that you couldn't be more purpose driven. But I want to dig into this experience that you've had over the past 11 months, because I think like even the most calculated person, as I would assume that you did your homework and really thought about this before you made the leap.
Yes.
But what's one thing that you've experienced or learned on this journey that you hadn't anticipated?
I think the biggest kind of a surprise, I didn't anticipate it. When I decided to make the change, I knew what I wanted to do. And yet it took me a lot longer. I'd say the first couple of months, and I keep refining to really hone it down. How do I communicate about this? And what exactly do I want to focus on? Because there's a lot of different things that I can do. And something that I didn't expect the moment the word went out there was a lot of distractions. People that said, hey, you can easily combine business and technical, come be a senior consultant for me. Or people reaching out and saying, hey, you have a very healthy network. How about, you pay me, I pay your referral fee, which is not part of my model, not what I want to do. Or just a lot of different distractions or even how, of all the things that I want to do, what is it that I want to focus on? So it actually took a lot more thought for me to really dig deep inside and say, what matters to me? And that I did not anticipate. And the other thing is that really just keep on refining, listening, hearing. And it's a different thing. Being an entrepreneur, right? Everything comes right back to you. The other thing too, like I'm trying to delegate some things. I'm trying to find some help. And the funny thing, I was surprised that people did not want the work. I was okay. There's a lot of people looking for work, but here I am trying to offer you some work.
A lot of people looking for work. There's not a lot of people who are like wanting to work.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit too hard.
Oh, that's really interesting. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges you'd had to overcome. Now, we already talked about some of those and the experiences and stories you shared with me. I'm still kind of trying to hide my facial expressions from, because I cannot get over that. But let's talk a little bit about some of the obstacles that you faced and other challenges that you had to overcome, because so many leaders that we speak to, and I know so many of our listeners, right, they're all navigating different and unique career paths and kind of trying to figure out, like, some of them are at these inflection points when they're deciding, changes that they have to make, whether they want to make those, or some folks are being faced with changes happening for them or to them. Mm-hmm. So what were some of the things that you had to navigate?
You bring up such a good point, and as I'm listening to you, Kristi, I can't help but think of all of the layoffs and everything that are happening these days, right? And all of the change around us. And by the way, I've been laid off in my career. And at the end of the day, looking back at it, it was a blessing in disguise. And as a matter of fact, it's one of those pivotal moments that is making me so passionate about helping others right now. And especially in the career and leadership, when I'm coaching people, I'm talking a lot about this phrase that I've been saying for over 10 years now, which is be the captain of your ship. Like, take the helm, take control. You're in charge of your career and your trajectory and how you go about it. But the pivotal moment that did that for me was around the financial crisis back in 08, 09 when it happened. When I got laid off, and that was not easy because I was a single parent with 2 young children that were like 7 and 8 years old, and I had a new mortgage, and it was a collapsing housing market, right? And there was not much jobs. And what happened is the year before that, I worked so hard, they actually took my job and they gave it to 3 different people. But when the time came for layoffs, I was let go, along with many thousands of people. But there's a side story to this. The side story was, some of my management telling me at the time that there was a conversation between letting me go, letting somebody else go, but I was new to the company, so the severance package made a lot more sense from a business financial, side of the company versus this other person that had been there for 15 plus years. So it didn't matter how hard I worked. It didn't matter that I was taking time away from my little kids and working so hard. And I was like, I was literally just a number on the bottom line, which, by the way, I understand as a business person. That's what a business is, right? So I learned 2 things. Number 1, don't take a layoff personal. It's not about performance. There's many other reasons, and it's okay. You're learning from it. Number 2, it kind of taught me that, hey, I'm never going to allow another situation or another person to really dictate where I take my career. There's always going to be a way, if it gets down to it, how do I go about it? And that was a big reason why the moment I was able to put even more effort into it is building my presence, building my brand. That helps me. That helps me now. That helps me going onto my own. So that was one of those pivotal moments. And what I would share is with people, yes, don't let that get you down. Things always fall into place, right? Like I said. And 2, just keep going, keep on doing, make the progress. Things will fall into place, but they're not going to happen on their own. You have to make them happen. You have to create the opportunities, right? And we can talk more about that. But yeah, hopefully, does that answer your question?
It does. I mean, so we're going to make this tactical for a second because sadly, I don't know what your inbox looks like on LinkedIn or anywhere, but mine is flooded with people who are struggling to find work right now. And so many of them have been impacted by layoffs. These are not people that were terminated because of performance. In fact, too many of them are top performers. And I'm assuming that that's probably why everyone's challenged finding a job, because you've got all these top performers vying for the same roles. Yes. But what advice would you offer to somebody? Let's assume a friend comes to you, tells you they just got laid off, to help them navigate this emotionally, right? Because so many people define themselves based on the roles that they have and the companies they've worked at. And now that's been removed from you. And so it feels for so many people that they've lost their identity. Yes. And they're really struggling, I think, with confidence and just the emotional change that they're going through here. What advice would you offer them to help them get through this time?
What I would say is, first of all, acknowledge it. Acknowledge it because it's there. You can't hide. You can't just box these feelings. But at the same time, don't let that hold you back. Life happens. So for me, there's been times when I went through tough situations that I gave myself permission that day, that night, that week even, but not indefinitely. Okay, I'm just going to feel bad and I'm just going to commiserate with myself if that helps me because I just don't have the energy to get over it. Fine.
Right.
But the next day, it's a new day. So I always say, start your next day with a grateful heart, first of all, because there's always something worse. And it's not about that. It's about, I don't want to stay stuck. I have a friend that said this very wise thing to me one day, and it applies to so many different things. It says, standing still, it's actually going backwards. Standing still, it's actually going backwards because everything else is moving forward. When this is happening, acknowledge it, but then realize that, hey, no one else but you can do something about it. So Put it aside, with it, against it. After you have your moment, say, okay, where's my plan? What can I do? But I would say this too. What helped me is don't wait for the moment to happen. Like, work on your presence, work on your brand, work on your network. These are the things that will help you if you're looking for a job right now. Who do I know? It's not like sending gazillions of, technical term here, of applications out there, right? It's, hey, who do I reach out? But hopefully I've taken the time to foster and nurture these relationships so that when that time comes, when there is an opening, which most good openings are not even published, right? They will think of me because I've taken the time to give value when value is not being asked, and that will come back to you. It's almost like that karma thing, and I don't want to get spiritual or anything here, but I do believe you put good out, good comes back to you. So take the time even ahead of time to build and nurture a meaningful network. Give back, it will come back to you. I think a lot of what's happening with the layoffs and just people, like I said, go to your circle, your network. Another way to put it is don't be shy or afraid to ask for help. There are actually good, kind people out there that want to help. But sometimes we are too proud, some of us, to ask for help. And I would say, don't be shy about doing that. If you've really brought yourself in a genuine, authentic way and just being there, others will show up for you too. But again, it goes back to how you show up all throughout, every day in and day out, not when you need something. And I would also add this. I know in times like this, we all expect results right away. I think it's when it gets really hard is when we need to keep on going, and then things just reach that turning point. So be resilient just by, doing your best every day, and things will fall into place. So don't lose your hope, if you will. Things always fall into place.
It's spot on. I want to see really quickly, like, if you're thinking back to yourself at the onset of your career, because you've definitely had a lot of different pivotal moments and made some changes, and now doing your entrepreneurial role, what's advice that you wish you would have had earlier in your career that you think would have had some meaningful impact?
So, Kristi, when I think about this, if I were to go back, I'm thinking about a couple of different things in my career, but I think it comes down to don't be afraid to make mistakes. When I first started, I thought I knew less than anybody else, and I wouldn't raise my hand to say anything. And then I realized it's not how much time somebody has been around in a company, like I was new to the team. It's how critical are they? Are they thinking about it? Are they really trying to understand what's happening, right? So don't be afraid to make mistakes. I was also very hesitant to say things because I thought, hey, I can't really communicate very well. I hardly can speak English here. And to this day, sometimes I hear phrases that I don't know that they mean, and I've been here for 36 years, right? The other thing that I've learned is that there's no such thing as perfect. Perfection is actually very subjective, because what's perfect to me may not be perfect to you. It may not be perfect to me, and vice versa. So there's no such thing as perfect. And I've come to realize, rather than expect and put really unrealistic expectations, just keep on making progress, keep on making progress. And keep on making progress means don't be afraid to make mistakes. But look at it. You and I think at some point talked about having a growth mindset. Well, yeah, if you make a mistake, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Learn from it. What do you get from it? Keep on going forward. And that's really the kind of mindset that has helped build my resilience and help build up my confidence, and just really helped shape a lot of my trajectory in my career these last 30 and going years.
Dora, honestly, that was so good that I wrote down both of those things. So I'm like, ooh, this is great content. But the no such thing as perfect thing, I don't know that I've ever heard that. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that it's subjective. And I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, this entire time, and as an early professional who just focused far too much on perfection, definitely over progress, it was crippling to me, right? Like I would get stuck in cycles of things because I tried to get it perfect. But you saying that one thing now, you just unraveled my 23-year career, because I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh. So I was striving for something that didn't actually exist. It existed in my head and my head only.
Yes.
I'm sitting here like, yes, baffled. I feel like if this was therapy, this would be a breakthrough moment.
This is one of the lessons in my program, actually. And I'll tell you how that came about quickly. It's because I realized throughout my career, and the higher up you go, the more senior you go, the more experience, that perception is reality. So what people perceive, that's the reality, which led me to think, there's no such thing as perfect. And by the way, I get it, because by nature, I want things done right. I'm a little bit perfect. But then I realized when I had to make decisions as a leader, I don't have the luxury of the time. I don't have all the information. In this time and age, we have more information than we need. And it's actually harder to just shift through to focus on what matters. So either not enough or too much. So you can never be perfect. And that is subjective, because again, what you look as something perfect, that almost reminds me, to be honest, the thing that was going viral a couple of years ago, the dresses, some people were looking at it, seeing it as blue, and others as gold or white or something like that.
Oh my gosh, no, but now I'll have to go look that up.
Well, we see things differently, and what we think it's perfect, we're chasing something that doesn't exist. It's different for everybody.
I think that is such a powerful way for us to end this episode, Dora. So I just want to thank you so much for your time today and sharing your journey and your experiences with us and with our listeners. So just really want to just express my gratitude, because this has been fantastic. And I've loved hearing more about this. And I have a feeling that this is just the beginning of me hearing some more of these stories. I got a few follow-up questions I want to ask offline.
Happy to chat more. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for your time and the opportunity here to have this chat with you, Kristi. And hopefully it's helpful out there for people. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Well, I so grateful for that. And thank you all so much for listening. Hopefully you've made it to the end with us today. And if so, and if you enjoyed our episode, please rate and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe on YouTube, connect with us both on LinkedIn. We'll have links to that in all of our show notes on all of our recorded episodes. But until next time, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Hi guys, I want to share a bit about an organization that I support called Wednesday Women. They're on a mission to increase the visibility of executive women leaders that you should know, learn from, and be inspired by. On LinkedIn, they share the profile of 2 amazing women each week, on Wednesdays, of course. And now just imagine if we all followed, amplified, and nominated the women that we want to see more of. Their initiative provides examples of women CEOs, founders, sales executives, technical leaders, and so many more. By supporting Wednesday Women, you'll see more of these professionals in your social feeds, of course, but also on stages, podcasts, and panels. If you're interested in learning more and supporting their initiative, head over to www.wednesdaywomen.org or follow them on LinkedIn.